and welcome to temple service. Alright, and just as it says there, everyone is welcome and loved here. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with the Sambujo chant. Now we'll go ahead and go over the welcoming of the Buddhas. We respectfully welcome Amida Buddha to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. We respectfully welcome the Buddhas of all times and places to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. And now for the 6 paramitas. Giving. May I be generous and helpful. Guidance. May I be guided by the Buddhist precepts. Tolerance. May I regard the mistakes of others with sympathy. Perseverance. May I do my best in all things. Meditation. May I reflect deeply on my life through the Buddha's teachings. Insight. May I understand the meaning of Namo Amida Butsu. And finally, the Bodhisattva vows. The many beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Greed, hatred, and ignorance rise endlessly. I vow to abandon them. Dharma gates are countless. I vow to wake to them. Buddha's way is unsurpassed. I vow to embody it fully. All right.
I want to thank everybody for coming. This means a lot to me, and I'm doing what I'm very passionate about, which is helping and healing people and helping people be guided back to their own personal truth and finding joy and happiness in their life now. So there are ways of thinking and just really simple kind of aha moments when you realize those you can start to make little shifts and changes that really do affect your life on a grand level. And so being aware of those really can give you a real good shot at having some happiness and really finding your soul's path and purpose here in this lifetime. That's my passion and my joy is to help people reach that. You know, enlightenment is something that's a lifelong process and it continually happens.
All right. And I invite you all to settle in, breathe deeply, and connect. This is a sacred space where truth, stillness, and healing are welcome. Today may be a bit of a repeat for some of you. For some reason, I've ended up with a previous sermon here, so maybe it's because some of you need to hear it again, or just maybe I need to go through it again myself. But we'll go over. Today we open our hearts to the third noble truth of the Buddha, the promise that suffering can end. Today we are entering the third noble truth, or nirvana, the end of suffering. The Buddha taught that liberation is possible, not only for monks or mystics, but for all of us in this very life. We've explored the truth of suffering and the cause, which is craving, grasping, and clinging. Now we shift our focus, because the Buddha didn't just leave us with diagnosis, he gave us a cure. Suffering ends when we let go. We all hold on to pain, to old stories, to identities that no longer serve us. We chase what we think will fix us, fulfill us, validate us. But the peace we seek is not found in having more. It is found in wanting less. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is trust. Letting go is liberation. Underneath all craving, there is an open sky. Beneath your fear, there is space. When you let go, even a little, you return to that natural peace that has been waiting for you all along. So, now I'm going to go ahead and get us prepared for meditation.
Namaste. So I want to share something with you that can help you during meditations, breath work, mindfulness, just to still your mind, quiet yourself, and allow more access to hear your higher self. Yogena Tutasha Bodhenu Vatra Travashadikena Yopakura Din Rabadam Bodhitam Patanjaliam.
Alright. And before we begin with our breath work and our meditation, let's get those blockages out of the way. And tune ourselves, align ourselves in preparation. Alright then. Now, for this breath work, you know, I know many of you already know this, but for anyone new here, we do what's called the infinity breath, which we start off by breathing out all that stale energy inside of us. And that forms the bottom loop of the infinity. And then we hold in our center, and then we breathe in all that cosmic creator light and energy. And then we hold in our center once more. And then when we breathe out again, what we are doing is we're circulating that energy through our body. And then we repeat that pattern in a timing in a way that is comfortable to us. Now for today, when we inhale, I want you to call in peace. And when you exhale, I want you to let go of what no longer serves you. When you inhale, I am here. When you exhale, I release. Okay. And with that, I'll go ahead and begin the meditation. You can close your eyes fully or part way, whatever way is comfortable to you. But just, I want you to feel the ground beneath you. Feel your connection to the earth as energy flows up into you from the earth, up through you, through your legs, moving up through your root chakra, then gradually moving up through your sacral, through your solar plexus, gradually moving up, making its way to your heart chakra, then moving up through you, making its way to your throat chakra, and transition upwards through your body, making its way to your third eye, and finally releasing through your crown, connecting you with the heavens and the earth. And just feel free to just be with this energy as it flows through you, to just exist in this state, to recognize your oneness, your connection to all that is, and that greater light that is flowing through you at this moment, and just let it sit, let it be, as you just breathe your infinity breath, as you are present, as you are here, as you let go and as you release. As you call in peace and release what no longer serves. And I just want those of you who are ready to just slowly come back to yourselves, back to this moment. Open up your eyes and just feel a bit lighter. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Reiki healing of the mind. It's just something for us to review for the week to come. Today's Reiki healing of the mind is enlightenment. No matter how much of your life you dedicate to spirituality, you will probably need to work in some manner to feed yourself, clothe yourself, keep yourself warm, and live comfortably. There is an old Zen Buddhist saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Right? And I'll just go ahead and show it for you guys to read. As a closing reflection, freedom is not found outside of us. It is a flame that burns within. The Buddha reminds us that peace isn't a future reward. It is a present possibility. Let today be the beginning of your letting go. Let your softening become your strength. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of homework as well. Number one is a journaling prompt. Where in my life am I holding on too tightly? What would it look like to soften, even just a little? Number two is an evening practice. Each night this week, place your hand over your heart and whisper, I am safe to release. I am enough. I let go. And third is an optional ritual to write a letter to a belief or burden you're ready to release. Burn it, bury it, or place it in water, symbolizing sacred surrender. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some of the services we offer here. Close that. If you want to stop by the Lotus Flower Wellness Temple, get this here. And as a final blessing, beloveds, you are not your pain. You are not your story. You are not your past. You are peace in motion. You are light in body. You are free right now in this breath. May this week be your practice in letting go and your return to the truth that peace is your nature. All right? So to those of you who just came for the service, I wish namaste, and I wish you the best in the week to come. For those of you who are staying on for our discussion podcast, we'll be setting up for that, and we'll start shortly. Go ahead and move this. Get that hooked into the mic. Listen. All right, it's working. Here you go, video. so for today, I feel like since this is a bit of a repeat, rather than going into so much of discussion of the service, we can do a bit more of a discussion of what we've been personally integrating and feeling over this week. Miguel, is there anything in particular that you feel like has been like a lesson or a message that you've been feeling, or like something that you've been working on recently?
Well, I mean, it's hard to let go sometimes, just with anything in general, and so it's like, because I'm such a heavy thinker, a lot of times I think until, I'm causing myself personal agony, I overthink to the point that I'm restless and I can't sleep at night, and it just becomes an endless cycle of I can't sleep because I'm overthinking. And then I undersleep, and then it causes me to question my life. It's just like a ongoing thing where, it's like, well, okay, so it's just kind of a natural process of, I've always been a deep thinker,
Right.
and so, I mean, good and bad, and so, a lot of times, it's like I kick myself over the bad stuff I've done in my past, the people that I've hurt, the stupid things I've done to myself, and, it's just, things like that are hard to, let go, especially when some of them have rippling effects that just cause you permanent damage,
Right.
within your life, whether physically, mentally, or emotionally. And sometimes stuff like that's just, hard to let go because it's like, well, it's me personally knowing that I've done things to hurt myself and other people. It's like I often ask myself, there's really no way for me. There's just some things that I may or may not ever be able to fix. The only thing I can do is just look forward instead of looking back.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that. I've found myself in sleepless periods before, and I personally find that like often when it's when the things on your mind are that heavy, and they're weighing that much, it often is that like you haven't really fully explored them. You haven't really sat with them enough. Like once like it can be hard to really absolve yourself of certain things and to accept that maybe you were at fault for something. Maybe something bad happened because of you, or maybe you hurt somebody. But that time is over, and that it's not going to change like that. Hurting yourself over that, it doesn't really do any good to continue to to feel that guilt and that pain and that to damage yourself for that. And I feel like for a lot of things that are super heavy, letting go isn't an instant process. It's gradual. It takes time. It takes time for a heart to heal, for a heart to mend. Even now, I still feel echoes of what I felt when I lost friends or over something that I did, or when I, did something stupid. Um, and I still feel echoes of that pain and that regret, but it doesn't, like, I need to live in the present, you know? I need to live in the now and to make the next moment better than the last. In order to honor those memories, to honor those past mistakes, I need to make sure that the present me is better than who I was then.
Yeah, and I've always had this issue of regretting the past and worrying and stressing out about the future, and when because, it's like, obviously the regret of the past is causing current pains, at the same time, it's like, I know where I want to be in life in the future, but I don't know how to go about building it. And so these things, become difficult for me to grasp a lot of times, and so a lot of times it is hard for me personally to live in the present, and I feel like part of that is loving yourself, and
Right.
I've always had difficulty with that, because of my stupid actions, and so it's just one of those things where, it's funny because sometimes it's easier to love other people than love yourself because because you know yourself more than you know other people, so
Yeah.
you don't know their flaws, but you know your flaws, and with extraordinary detail. And even then, sometimes there's things that you don't know about yourself that other people might know about yourself.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's kind of difficult because, sometimes, you might be oblivious to, okay, I have a bad habit involving other people
Right.
or whatever, and then it's like, well, I didn't know.
Yeah, by the same token, sometimes you can't recognize the good in yourself. I actually even wager a lot of people can't recognize the good in themselves a lot of the time. Like, it's, and we so rarely receive compliments on things, unless, like, we're actively performing or, like, we are in the entertainment industry. We rarely receive any kind of, like, compliments about, like, what we do right, and, like, how how good we are at something. And I feel like that would be, like, a really good practice for all of us to start up, to just start to give compliments more freely when we recognize someone doing something right, or something good, or something that we enjoy or appreciate. Um, and I feel like that also ties back into the service as well. Like, recognizing that we are not our past. Who we are is not who we were. Like, the person who made the mistake has already gone through changes to the point where they are no longer the same person who they were then. And especially if the person regrets that mistake, if they realize that that's not who they want to be, you get to choose who you want to be instead. And you shouldn't be held back by the idea of, like, oh well, I wasn't who I wanted to be then, so now that defines me. It shouldn't. Like, it how can who you were in the past really define who you are now when you're constantly changing and you're growing and you're evolving and you're constantly making yourself better? Like to the point where we often have this analogy of comparing our past self to our present self. Like, what would the me of 10 years ago think of the me now? How different are these two people? So yeah, just like, part of letting go of the past and letting go of that, the pain that you've caused others, the pain that like you caused yourself, letting go of that mental anguish is realizing that it's not who you are now. Like, you can feel bad for what happened, and you can recognize that at the time you did wrong, and you can do your best to make amends, but there's only so far you can really go. You can't rewrite the past, you can't change who you were, but you can make changes in the present, and those changes will have big impacts on the future, which, even for the future, we build it brick by brick. Rome's not built in a day, so like, even if it feels like we're not making much progress, day by day, we're making more progress than we realize.
Yeah. And scientifically speaking, pain is much more memorable than pleasure, and I personally see in my own life, I can give you excruciating detail about all the bad stuff that's happened in my life, but I cannot give you a recap on the vacations I had as a kid. I can barely tell you what I did, the last time I went to Disney World, just stuff like that, it's like, it's something that's kind of ingrained in us, so it's a lot easier for us to linger on the bad than it is the good, because it takes much more effort for you to to be grateful and to try to remember the good things in your life, and to try to be happy and experience joy and experience pleasure, in a healthy manner, of course.
Right. I feel like, it's sort of like an atmosphere of fear that's kind of been promoted by, the forces that shape our ego, right? Like, the way we're told by the world to behave, the way that society thinks of us, the way that we're constantly judged, it makes us kind of like scared of what other people think, or scared, like, thinking like, what if I did something wrong, or like, what if I make a mistake, what if I trip up, what if someone looks at me and they laugh, it's easy to focus more on these kinds of like fears that are ingrained in us, but in order to experience the happiness and joy of the moment, we need to be in the moment, and all that thinking just keeps us out of the moment. It keeps us from really experiencing where we are, what we're doing, and making memories of that. And, like, we can accomplish so much. We can reach great heights as human beings. We can do all sorts of things. But for many people who do accomplish things, they're so focused on their growth, they're so focused on trying to get to the next point, that they forget to celebrate the small victories, to celebrate each step along the way, to recognize, like, when they've made good progress, and to do something to mark the occasion, right?
Yeah, there has to even experience any of the good feelings, joy, and all that stuff. There has to be a healthy balance between your spiritual health, your physical health, your mental health, and your emotional health. You know, because if any one of them is out of whack, you're gonna feel terrible. You know, if you're sick, that your physical health is out of whack, and now you feel like crap. You know, or just like someone was rude to you at work, now you're emotionally feeling bad, and that blocks you from, you know, the joy you might be able to fully experience. Or,
Right.
you know, if, like I said, if you overthink and you're thinking about everything other than what's good, you know, then that's not good for your mental health. You
Yeah.
know, and, you know, and obviously spiritual health is, you know, something that, you know, you need to work on too, because, you know, it helps guide you in that direction, what to do and how to do it. You know, it's just something that you have to pay attention to. You know, and so it's not always so cut and clear, but you know, once you figure it out, then it's just kind of like that aha moment. Why didn't I think of it sooner?
Yeah. And I feel like with a lot of things, a good attitude to keep is to sort of like, as much as you can, to allow things to just kind of roll off of you, you know, to roll with the punches, to let, like, you may be insulted, you may be hurt, and that, like, you can go into that, like, in your own space and feel those emotions and just, like, be there and accept that, okay, this happened and it hurts. But, like, to, you know, not let certain things, like other people's opinions, bother you as much. You should give them a bit less weight, right? Like, don't think of them in as high of a regard. Like, they mean so much that person said that to me. Something that I recognize is that we are the people who give value and distribute value to the words that people say to us. Like, we're the ones who recognize, oh, that means something. That really means something. Or, oh, that's just a string of words. That's just incomprehensible garbage. You know, like, that just, you know, it makes no sense. So, like, I feel like we have at least a little degree of control over, you know, our emotional health in that way. But, yeah, like, I definitely feel like all of our health impacts each other. Sometimes, like, your spiritual health can be out of whack, and that can affect your physical health. You know, because, like, you're not right spiritually. You may develop, like, a physical illness. And I've definitely seen examples of this personally, where just, like, once something's resolved spiritually, you know, it's like it clears up physically as well. But yeah. Is there any further, like, you'd like to speak on all this? Anything else?
Top of my head.
Okay. Well, then I'll move into something that I've been integrating for this week. And I feel like, for me, what it is recognizing that, I am an unconventional person, with a lot of my ideas, and my thoughts, and that I should embrace those things. You know, that, rather than just saying, like, you know, just going along with, like, what is the standard, I am here to bring light in that only I can. Hello, welcome in.
Thank you.
We're just doing a bit of a discussion podcast after service.
Oh, you're doing a discussion podcast.
Yeah.
I won't disturb you.
All right.
What's your topic, just so I know?
It's just like after service, like we had a temple service, and
Oh.
so like we're just kind of having a bit of discussion afterwards.
Namaste, man.
Yeah, namaste to you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, but yeah, just like to be able to speak on what I feel about certain things. Like for example, I have a different view on closed practices than a lot of people. There are people who are very strict and very protective of closed practices, and they feel that only certain people should practice them, only certain people should be involved with them. Like these sorts of restrictions are important and that they add value. Personally, I'm inclined to disagree with that. To me, it's a sort of like universal gatekeeping to keep people from being able to experience something different just because their culture or their belief system or whatever is not the same. I understand that there can be a level of disrespect that is felt, but each individual is given free will to be able to express it, and especially if they are being genuine about their appreciation for the practice, if they're being genuine in their use of the tools to whatever effect that they're using, even if they change things up, I don't see that as a bastardization. I see that as them expressing their truth through that practice. And I also see closed practices as being more inclined to dying out, just simply for the fact that they can be so heavily gatekept and so heavily restricted, that they're not allowed to spread, and they're not allowed to reach people who they can really help.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that just has to do with the purity of the practice. Like the Jews, for example, they were very protective of their culture and their beliefs. Because how they saw it, it was a matter of if they just let anybody and everybody practice in the way they practice, suddenly you get a billion different religions and everyone, just kind of ruining the whole point of why they even, started these beliefs and practices to begin with. And so I understand that, because, it's so easy for, say I teach somebody something, and now, that person is teaching them in a completely different way than I taught them, and now suddenly it's a totally different viewpoint, to the point where it might not be the same thing that I even taught.
Right.
So that has a lot to do with it. Just trying to keep the sacredness and purity, of its original intentions. Otherwise it's so easy for something to get turned into a monster, and now you got some ridiculous cult, or these crazy people who are doing things that completely are antithesis to the original beliefs, where you might have uh, just acts of violence, and just people
Oh, yeah.
hurting each other.
I definitely,
Judgment.
I definitely feel like there's certain like common sense, like things that go against law, things that go against like ethics. It's something like I feel like our heart will never really uh, lead us astray, in the sense of like our soul will never lead us astray. In terms of our spiritual, what we're drawn to practicing and drawn to connecting with, that you know there can be a sacredness in being the only one to practice. Like simply because of the diverse way that you take different ideas from different spiritual teachings and apply them in your own way. And I feel like there can be a sacredness and a holiness in that. It doesn't have to be an organization. It doesn't have to be a collection of people who all believe exactly in the same way, or have the same set of I do this, and the other thing as like a collective ritual. You know, like in Buddhism we have Namaste, but someone else might use a different or might take inspiration from it, and might have a different sort of idea for what they want the the physical components of that to be, or like the verbal components, somatic or verbal, like what they want the movements to be for that, or what they want the words to be, but the intention is the same. It's just something that flows different for them, that they feel more comfortable to do, say, like this, when they say what they say. And so I feel like, an encouragement of personal spiritual practice in your own sort of way is a good thing, rather than requiring that a practice or a spirituality be uniform.
Yeah, every belief system has a set of rules and a set of laws, and Plato said it best. He said, if everybody loved each other, we wouldn't need laws, and so, sadly, love is not the natural state of mind for a lot of people in the world, nor is good, wholesome ethics and morals a natural state of mind for a lot of people. And so, it's like
it is important to enforce law for those reasons. If someone comes to harm, or someone that's why the legal system is so important. That's why it's so important that we even beyond the legal system, things like karma and things like consequence exist for a reason, and they're here to discourage us when we're on the wrong, we're on a path that does not serve us, or that does us harm. It doesn't always work. There are people who are very good at getting out of consequences, but those consequences, and the potential for them, follow them wherever they go, and oftentimes the more they avoid something, the more it grows. so that when they finally do face consequence, it's much more than what they initially would have faced.
Yeah, and that actually kind of goes back to what we were discussing before, because if we keep repeating our mistakes over and over and over and over again, and we don't get caught, and now we have this Pavlovian response where, oh, I can keep doing this and get away with it, and so, and that in itself causes us a lot of suffering, and so, but sometimes it takes like a major event happening in life, and you're like, oh shoot, I made a huge mistake, I can't believe I've done this, now I got these consequences, and so that letting go of your suffering, because a lot of time people use like addictions and vices and stuff like that as a coping mechanism for their suffering, and so, and a lot of times that leads people to getting in trouble or getting hurt or hurting other people, and then later on when people realize I made a terrible mistake, and then that's when,
They have to face up to everything they've done. Yeah, you don't always realize the damage you're doing in the process of doing it, especially if you escape consequences and if you are able to make yourself feel good about what you've done, because you've made some kind of material gain, or you've made some kind of societally promoted gain, maybe fame or money or power, oh well, I'm more powerful now, oh well, I have more money now, oh well, I'm more famous now, I can have more influence, but in the process you burn bridges, you destroy lives, you hurt others, and after a while that comes back to bite you. Even if only in just realizing you don't have any friends and you can't trust anybody. Even if it's just that you find that you're all alone at the top. And when you're all alone at the top, what is the point of even getting there? What are you going to use all of that power? Who are you going to use all that power? What is the good of all that you have done? Let's see if this has a little bit more power in it, because I noticed that it went off. Hello. Oh. Well, I'm just going to take this out. It looks like we've run out of battery for this, so we're just going to speak and try to project. So, is there anything else you'd like to add, or would you just like to, or think that we've covered enough and finish it off here?
Well, I think that's a good stopping point.
Yeah, we've run out the battery on the speakers for now, so or on the microphones. So let's just go ahead and say namaste to you all. Sat Nam. I wish you guys a lovely week, and I'll see you next time.